So we are the Blue Cross Blue Shield team, and our project was code deployment automation. And our group members were Emma Cockram, myself, Zachary King, Dylan Newstrum, and Sredna Kunowski. And basically, their current deployment process is not ideal. It's a very manual process that takes up time of more than one individual. And because of this, there's more human resources that's needed for every code deployment. And basically, kind of the big issue right now is the developers, when they make changes and they want to push their code out or they want to change application, from test environment to the production environment, they have to contact another worker who's already doing a full-time job with ServiceNow. And basically, he has to manually move these files from one server to another server. And it's a very manual process and kind of a burden. And it takes away from his time doing his job. So basically, our goal was to remove him from the equation so that he can focus on his own job, kind of automating this whole process, to make life easier for both the developer and the other guy who doesn't need to do it anymore.
All right. So our solution was basically integrating the two different pieces of software, and those were Azure and ServiceNow. The Azure side basically controlled the build and release pipelines, and also we used it to store code. And then the ServiceNow, the change management feature that we used. So we had different pipelines for each of the different frameworks, and the four frameworks that we had were .NET, SQL, Azure, and PowerShell. So in the bottom diagram, it kind of shows the flow of how we created the pipeline. So the code was stored in the Azure repos, which is similar to GitHub. Then the code would then go to the Azure pipeline for the build. The build would then compile the code, run any unit tests, any other things you would need to run in the build pipeline. Then once that passed, it would get transferred to the Azure release pipeline, which would release the project on whatever they needed. So if it was a SQL script, it would run the SQL script on the dedicated server. Same with the PowerShell. For Azure, it would publish an Azure Web App to the Azure portal, which is shown on the right-hand side. And that's about it.
All right, yeah, thank you.